I'm Lori J. Steinfeld, the creator of the original wall stamp. In this video, I'm going to show you how to achieve a two-tone look. For this, you'll need your two colors of paint, your bucket, your screen, your Slim Jim roller, your original wall stamp, and a piece of cardboard. I also recommend that you always keep a wet rag or a sponge with you and a small paintbrush for touch-ups. Now I'm going to show you what you need. This is called a Slim Jim roller. This nap on the roller you want to be very small, not the big fat fluffy ones, because we want the paint to just float over the top of the design. If it's thick and it's saturated, it's going to get into all these areas and you're just going to have more cleanup. It'll still work, but it's just more cleanup for you. So we want a thin nap on your Slim Jim roller, a screen, and a bucket. And you can use any paint, like if you have touch-up paint from a job, or you have friends who have, paint, or kids paint, you're only going to pour in about 1 inch. So you can see I poured very little paint into the bucket. You don't need a lot. We're going to do a two-tone technique. This is a metallic bronze, and it looks really good with blue. Rust and blue go great together. Bronze and blue go great together. Now I'm going to show you, I'm not even going to pour that into anything. I have color in the lid because I just shook it up. So I'm just getting my roller. I'm not saturating it. I'm getting the excess off. You're going to take this and you're going to hold the end, and I'm rolling this color right onto the stamp. Now, for the first time, I do it twice, only because the stamp was empty. So I'm going to load it up a little more for the very first stamp. Now, after this time, we'll only do it once. So watch. I just threw that color on, but to do two colors, I'm going to dab into my bronze and just sort of throw it around where I want on the stamp. You can do a solid color, which you'll see on the website, but this I'm just going to throw in two colors. I'm going to go to my center line, and I'm going to go all the way to the top, and I'm going to get my level, and I'm going to hold my stamp. Obviously, because I have a line drawn, I don't really have to worry about the level, which you won't either. That's just there for those who need it or want to use it, like if we were doing free patterns, and then you just pull it off. Now, it's not perfect, it's not wallpaper, but look, isn't it pretty? And so while you have your wet rag, you can just take off any excess, or like, because I moved it a little bit, look, you just wipe that off. Now, that stuff doesn't bug me, but it does bug some people. So you just keep your wet rag with you and just clean up. Also, if you miss anything, when you're done stamping, you can use your wall color and just do touch-up. So there's our first one. Now I'm going to show you how we do this pattern, is that we do all the three lines. The two end ones and the center will be the same. So we just dab on some bronze wherever you want. And I am going to do this one. So that was about that high. You can see I'm not too worried about things being exact. And I moved it a little bit again, so I'm just going to wipe that off. Like I said, this doesn't usually bother me, so watch. See how I touch that dot? All you have to do is throw it back in there. Don't be afraid, it's only paint. If you mess up, you can go back in with a little brush afterwards. And just like with stencils, stencils aren't perfect, they bleed. So you have to clean them up after you do one. So there's our two. I'm going to do one more on the end. So I'm going to put this one right here. And I'm really not using the level at this point because I have my lines. But if you were doing freestyle, you would definitely use your level. And so some of them are going to be darker than others. You see, I haven't rolled this roller in the paint again, because you can just keep using what's on there until it gets too dry. Okay, so we have our three. Now we're going to, here's where it comes in. You kind of eyeball it. I'm going to come down. I want it to look like a pattern. So I'm going to come down right about here. And so what we're going to do now is measure the other side. You can just take your level and your chalk and come across. So let's mark it there, and then we're going to mark it here. And so that's where this one's going. Need a little more paint. And I'm very lightly just floating that over the top. Like I said, you don't want to saturate it, because then it's just more cleanup for you. So now this one is going to go right here. So I find my top. This is where the stamp comes in handy to be a little see-through. So you can see the top of that design going right where my mark was. What I love about the stamp too is it just looks old school. Like I can go heavier if I wanted to, or you can go heavier. I like the old world look, so I like when it's not perfect. If you want it more perfect, what's really cool about it too is you can go back in with a paintbrush after and you can make that sharp and high and tight if you want. So now what I'm going to do is, because I want to see how far down this came from this stamp. So I see it's about 1 inch. So I'm going to do that here. About 1 inch, and I'm going to mark this one. And then I'm going to go over here and mark that one. You notice you have to mark them all to get the, unless you have you can snap a line too, that's easy, but then you got to nail it into the wall. So now I have the placement for my next 3 stamps. Very little paint, very little of the bronze. And we're going to start here, get it on our line. Now I'm going to show you, if I really press this down harder, you'll get more color. I prefer it to look more old world aged, but you can get it more solid. This is in my garage, so we've got a line, but I even think that's cool looking. I like anything that looks worn and aged, just like me. So if you don't like measuring, you can have the person who's really good at the detail do the measuring for you, and if you're the one that doesn't mind getting dirty, you can be the one stamping. I do wear an apron. And let me show you something else while I'm here. So this was stamped once. You can take the same stamp, I haven't even rolled more paint on it, and use it again. But I'm just going to press a little harder this time. So that's called a variance. It can be a different depth of color. Like this one won't have as much depth as this one. But I think that's a fun look, especially when you're overlaying. And then you just wipe out, obviously, where the background touched a little bit. So look, we're getting there. This one is right there. So you're actually going to learn a few techniques just in this one stamping session, because once we're done with this design, I'm going to show you how to do overlapping patterns. So far you've learned 2 colors. Like some people, you're just going to stamp, like you can look on the website, you can just stamp white on a blue wall, or you can stamp, you know, a pink on a white wall. You can just, or you can do bright red. You can do whatever you want. But this is a 2 stamp, or a 2 color technique. So I'm lightly pressing on this one because I'm going to use it again. But if you don't like that aged look, then you can roll it every single time. That's where the stamp comes in to your personality and what you like. So you notice the second time I pat it, I pat harder than the first time. Oh, I got to measure again. So now we're coming to this third one again, and it's about like there. You notice you can measure out your whole wall first if you want. I'm just measuring as we go because I'm looking at where the stamp is landing. But you can totally measure out your whole wall. Some people will do that, and then you don't have to stop in between. So this one is probably my most important, so I'm going to start here. And then I'm going to do here. Oop. Get my touch-up rag. Okay, see, we're almost done with this wall for this technique, but then we'll do the overlapping right on top of this. Okay, last row. We're going to see where this goes. Look at that. Who even knew that was going to fit so nicely? And look how simple this is. You just tape off your baseboard. You can throw a sheet, newspaper, anything you have. You don't have to have a professional painting drop, but nowadays most people do. My mom always had sheets all over the floor when she was painting. My mom actually started sponging. When I was in high school, she would take sponges and pull patterns out and then sponge our bathroom. And I thought that was great. It looked like wallpaper. So it's really sort of the birth of the stamp, actually, if you think about it, which is pretty funny. Look at how that worked out. We weren't even trying for that. And that is where the line helps, because look, when you look down, you think something's level, and even me, who I can eyeball things, it's not. So look, you just line that up with the chalk mark down at the bottom. Okay, so here's our first pattern. I just call this like a random old school sort of wallpaper look. And you can see it's spaced so nicely, and there's a variance in color. And then when this dries, you would just come back and wipe all this chalk off. But I'm going to show you something cool. I thought of something the other night, like I wanted to do dots. So I kept thinking, what? And you don't even have to buy this. This is free. Get a cork. Look how cool this is. Get a cork, put some paint on it. Now I'm going to eyeball this. You guys can take your time and measure. But look how cool this is. Just to do that in between the patterns. It just kind of gives it a, I don't know, like a different dimension, a cool look. So that comes down like that. And that's just using a cork. So that makes our design a little more filled, like the space. So that came up a little bit more, so that came right about there. And see, look, if that doesn't fill in, it's not a big deal. Dab your finger in paint and go back in and fill it in. Don't be afraid. It's only paint. Keep your wet rag. If you make a mistake, just fix it. So I'm very lightly dabbing there because it's a loaded dot. I don't know. I think that makes it look pretty interesting. A little more like wallpaper, actually. Now, if you want to measure these, feel free. Measure away. I think it's kind of cool. See, look at that. Even slid. Just wipe it off and do it again. There you go. Voila. There's the wall. Now, how fun is that? You can put anything in front of this. It makes the wall, it gives it so much character. I just love it. It's so much fun. So, like I said, when this dries, you just clean it up. And also, for you perfectionists, if things bug you, take a little paintbrush, and with your wall color, you can go in, if I missed anything wiping off, you can go back in and touch it up with a little paintbrush. And or, if you want to make this more solid, dab a little paintbrush in the blue and the bronze. So if you want, just fill in the space. Notice how I'm not making a brush stroke. I'm just dabbing. Like you can dab it right there. So look, I'm just pulling some paint off of the stamp. See how this is a little empty? You can fill that in if you want. And right here. Depends on the look you're after. So there's our first wall. By the time you finish stamping a wall and pulling tape and cleaning your supplies, your wall should be dry and ready to put furniture back. And remember to post your picture, post your design, post your wall on Instagram and tag us at The Original Wall Stamp. We'd love to see what you come up with. And be sure to check out our website, theoriginalwallstamp.com, for more tips and techniques and for future designs. Thank you so much, and I hope you're encouraged and inspired, and I can't wait to see what you do. You got this.